Hello, everyone. Welcome, everyone watching us online. My name is Marco Knaben. I'm the community manager for the connectory in Curitiba. And if you don't know what a connectory is, it is actually a network of hubs from Bosch all over the world to foster and develop co creation and co innovation through different ecosystems. We are located in 6 different places around the world. Here in Brazil, we have Curitiba, in Mexico, Guadalajara. We have Chicago in the US. We have Stuttgart in Germany. And we have Shanghai in China. So this month, the Curitiba Connectory is turning 1 year old, and we have a special program with lots of events online for you to watch. So check on our LinkedIn account, our YouTube, and Simpla for next events and for past events. And today I'm very excited because we have a great lineup of panelists to discuss one topic that I think is very interesting. It's about the innovation ecosystem in Canada. And what I love about today's event is that we have 3 different perspectives. We have one from the public side, one from the community side, and one from the corporate side. So for me to stop talking now, so if you guys could introduce yourselves. Hi.
Hi, my name is Carmen Duville. I'm a project director at Mars Discovery District, one of the largest innovation urban hubs in North America. And I'm looking forward today, and thank you for asking us to join you today.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Good morning. My name is Greg DeRay. I'm a regional director for Ontario at Invest in Canada, which is Canada's federal agency dedicated to investment promotion and investment attraction. Pleasure to be here.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Rafael. I'm responsible for business development for Bosch here in Canada. Very excited to be here on this exciting milestone from the Curitiba Connectory. So congratulations to that, and thanks for having us. Looking forward to the discussions here. So
thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zishan. I lead the business development practice at Mars and work very closely with Carmen. Very excited to be here to present today. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you guys for being here and joining us for this event. So what I understand that it's also very distinct about Canada is how the public sector is involved with all the innovation activities. So I will forward to Greg to let us know more. How is this interaction going? How they are working with their ecosystem. So it's with you, Greg.
Thank you, Marco. Again, Greg DeRay. I'm based in Toronto. And with Invest in Canada. So as I mentioned, we are Canada's federal agency that's really focused on working with multinationals and groups around the world and trying to sell Canada in many ways. Hopefully you can see my screen, and we'll get started. So I think I have about 15 minutes today. Again, pleasure to be here. Thank you, Marco, for and the rest of your team for inviting us here today. So the idea of today's presentation is really just to talk a little bit about what we do, who we are, and how we facilitate and work with companies, as I mentioned, and try to sell them a little bit about Canada and why it's a good place to invest and maybe start their business here in Canada. So we're a relatively young organization, really only a couple of years old. We're headquartered in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada, but we have offices across Canada and many of the major cities across Canada. And really our mandate, as I've said, is all about promoting foreign direct investment. And the way we do that is obviously we don't do it alone. We have a number of partners at various levels of government. So I would say I think the total of around 13 provinces and territories, and all of the capital cities that are located in those provinces and territories, as well as a number of industry stakeholders and universities. And so we work with this whole ecosystem of partners to try to bring the best and really a sort of a one-stop shop or a concierge service to help those folks sort of understand a little bit more about Canada and get them the information they need to make their business decisions. We also take care of a number of other things. Probably the biggest one is we're responsible for developing a national strategy to attract FDI into Canada. So that's really working with all of the other windows of both the federal and provincial governments, maintaining, growing those partnerships. And I would say, probably relevant to this audience, we spend a lot of time also promoting Canada as an investment destination. So that's actually a big part of what we do. We want to make sure that we're present at a number of the sort of larger conferences and trade shows around the world, and making sure that those businesses and investors have the right information about Canada. So what I wanted to go through today is really talk a little bit about Canada's strengths. And when we have these discussions with investors, we really, spend a lot of time going through these four topics: talent, our innovation ecosystems, the business environment that Canada offers, and we always like to include something that my colleagues are well aware of, is that we think we have a pretty nice quality of life. And as we know, happy employees, happy individuals make happy employees. So that's a big selling point for Canada as well. So we always lead off, I would say, with talent. Any business knows that they're only as good as the talent that they have. We like to think that Canada has the talent that businesses need to grow and scale and thrive. You'll see some of the stats on the page, but the fact is that our university system, as well as various programs at the federal level, all work together to make sure that companies and businesses have really high quality talent to help grow their businesses. Specifically, if we talk about sort of tech talent in Canada, Canada really excels here, and you'll see some stats on the page. Over 119,000 tech jobs in the last 5 years were added in Canada. Toronto is, I would say, where most of that talent ends up, around 80,000 or so. But honestly, there are markets across Canada. Even though Canada is a really large country, there's probably 5 or 6 large cities that have significant tech concentrations. I alluded to this previously, but a lot of this talent that we talk about is really generated through what we call sort of the U15. It's a group of 15 Canadian research universities, and they, together they really make up the bulk of all sort of competitive university research. Again, they're distributed across the country, and they're really the engines behind a lot of this talent that we're really finding a lot of companies are looking to Canada to move here because of this talent. And in addition to having this strong base of talent, we also have something called the Global Skills Strategy Program. And this is a federal program, and it's really designed to help employers attract top quality talent. And it does that by really speeding up the application process. And this is just an amazing program that a lot of businesses have taken advantage of. It really allows for about 2-week, 10 to 14 day processing of work permits. So if there's a company here that wants to, can't find the skills or the specific specialized talent, this is a program that can get that talent from abroad really quickly. The nice thing about it is it's it's got a 92% approval rate. We've brought over 30,000 skilled workers to Canada through this program, and it continues to be one of the federal programs that is really contributing to the growth that we're seeing in Canada. The second item that I'd like to talk to and spend a little bit of time is our innovation ecosystems, and you're going to hear a lot about this from some of the other colleagues on the call. But I would say, a few years ago, the federal government started a program called the Innovation Superclusters. It was really designed to reflect Canada's commitment to support the success of leading companies that are choosing to innovate in Canada. We designed 5 superclusters around these themes that you'll see on the slide. So there's an advanced manufacturing supercluster in Toronto, digital tech in Vancouver out on the West Coast. We have one dedicated to artificial intelligence in Montreal. Canada also has a very large agricultural sector, and so we have a protein industry supercluster that focuses on ag tech and related industries out in Regina, Saskatchewan. And then again, obviously the oceans and ocean tech is a big deal for Canada with so much coastline to deal with. And so we have an ocean supercluster out in Halifax on the East Coast. I alluded to it that we have this advanced manufacturing supercluster. Advanced manufacturing is really a sector that is extremely important in Canada. So when we talk about advanced manufacturing, we're really talking about robotics and 3D printing and things that relate to ICT. Again, there's a heavy focus on R&D, and obviously this is incredibly important for Bosch as well. But really, it's spread out across Canada as well. You'll see some of the notable companies on the slide that are already present in Canada, and I would say that this is really a sector that Canada wants to develop even further. And a lot of the programs that we have at the federal level are designed to actually to grow this sector. Now, a part of, or maybe related to advanced manufacturing is something that I just wanted to include for this audience, and it's about auto tech, or when we talk about sort of the future of mobility. So Canada has a rich history of serving the automotive industry. We've got 5 global OEMs that are located in Ontario. Together, there's about 12 plants between assembly and engine manufacturing. And the reason this is important is because it's really developed the supply chain and the whole network of those suppliers that feed those plants are also based and have grown up with the industry over the last 50, 60 years. And so we've got this really rich, not only sort of traditional sector that feeds the automotive, but then also a lot of research and development and institutions that focus on the future of mobility. And AVEN is one of them. And AVEN is really this program that supports the development and demonstration of automotive technologies and mobility solutions. They've got a number of locations or demonstration zones across, in this case, Ontario. This is a provincially funded initiative. But those of you who are on the webinar who are maybe interested in understanding a little bit more of this, happy to talk about this later. It's absolutely what's one of the initiatives that's really taking all of this expertise that we have in building cars and building sort of the next generation of vehicles. Just maybe a little bit about AI. Many respects, Canada is home to some of the world's brightest minds in the field of artificial intelligence and deep learning. In fact, some of the pioneers in the deep learning space are Canadian. They continue to work in Canada, work and teach in Canada. Canada is probably, I think, one of the first countries that have developed a national AI strategy, and we're really seeing a lot of that work pay off. We've got Facebook, we've got Uber, we've got Samsung, and many others who have come here to set up, small outposts to take advantage of that talent and growing their operations in the AI space from these locations. Just a little bit on tech in Canada. There's obviously a lot to talk about here, but suffice to say that we've got representation from all of the sort of world's largest companies in the tech space, the Microsofts, the Amazons, the Googles. They continue to expand their presence here. You'll see there it's over 43,000 companies in the ICT sector just counted last year, and that number continues to grow. Toronto, Vancouver, and maybe Ottawa are probably those hubs that see the most of those, the bulk of those investments. Again, there's a lot going on here. Happy to talk, in more detail a little later on. But this is really an exciting space, and if any of you on the call have been to Toronto or Vancouver or some of the larger cities in Canada, you really feel that technology is a big part of the economies in some of these cities. Just a slide to talk about, one of the ways that we're encouraging all of this innovation is the creation of a number of hubs across Canada. You'll see some of the logos on this slide here. There's just an incredible wealth of talent and startups and energy in a lot of these cities that I've mentioned, and these innovation hubs are helping cultivate the talent. And if you just look at some of the numbers behind the numbers of new companies that are founded that come out of these innovation hubs, it's just astonishing. And again, we're seeing a lot of companies attracted to Canada because of all of these companies developing new technologies that we're seeing. So it's really, really interesting. The third pillar that I wanted to just spend a little bit of time on is the way Canada sees itself and has developed its economy. So really, Canada understands the importance of business and has really created this environment to encourage investment. And so we are one of the easiest places in the developed world to start a business. We rank first in the G7 in sort of measuring a country's potential for investment and growth. We rank near the top in terms of ease of investor protection. So there's a lot of reasons why businesses come to Canada and find that the investment environment is conducive to not only launching a business but growing a business. You'll see out there on the slide as well a sound banking system. So it's probably maybe one of the more boring points about Canada, but having a strong and sound financial system is absolutely conducive to businesses wanting to come here and not being sort of subject to some of the swings that we're seeing in some of the other countries worldwide. We also like to think that we're a pretty politically stable country. I think you'll find that most people, think relatively the same in Canada, and that helps, just eventually just making progress on some of the larger sort of social and economic issues. For those of you who maybe aren't familiar with Canada, again, here's a little map that talks a little bit about how we're sort of structured. I include this only because Canada also has 14 trade agreements, and that gives businesses in Canada access to about 51 countries, covering, I think it's around 60% of the world's GDP and about 1.5 billion consumers. And so these free trade agreements are absolutely essential to doing business with the rest of the world. And we all know that we're becoming a more globally connected society. And so this is just another point that's really, really important that we sell, that businesses find a lot of value in. Just the other point on the slide, over 200 languages spoken across Canada. Canada is multicultural by design and by definition. There's, you'll find people that speak all sorts of languages if you just take a stroll down some of the larger streets, and some of the larger cities, and that also makes for a great business environment. No talk on investment traction is complete without talking about tax rates. We've got one of the lowest tax rates for new business investment in the G7, currently sitting around 13.7%. This is the marginal effective tax rate, which is really a metric that is useful in comparing jurisdictions around the world. So we're often thought of as a high tax environment given our social system, but that's absolutely not true. And when businesses, do the due diligence, and we help them do that, pretty quickly, it becomes an easier sell because of some of these things. And lastly, as I mentioned at the beginning of the slide, we're a pretty nice place to put down roots. In many sources, we're ranked either number 1 or number 2 as the best country for quality of life. Those of you probably have images of Canada, and that's very. They often involve sort of mountains and streams and whatnot. But, when it comes to sort of Canadian cities where most of the business happens, even these cities are ranked very, very high in terms of quality of life and overall affordability as well, in some of them as well. So it's a pretty good place to bring talent, and again, a lot of companies value that. So hopefully I haven't taken too much time, and happy to go through a lot more of this information in detail. I think we have a Q&A at the end, but I'll pass it on to my colleagues as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you so much for presenting that. It was a very compelling presentation. One of the things I found most interesting is how the way you approach talent attraction, because there's only so much that the private sector and the community can do without having support from the community. So thank you very much for that. And now I'd like to call Zishan and Carmen from Mars, which is one of the largest innovation hubs in North America. Hey guys, could you tell us a little bit more about Mars?
Great, thank you, Marco. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak here as well. So today, as part of my presentation, I'll be talking about Mars, the organization, our mission, our vision. We'll get deeper in terms of two areas within the business, and then we'll pass it on to my colleague Carmen, who will speak to the work we do in the advanced manufacturing space at Mars. So as Marco mentioned, Mars is North America's largest urban innovation hub, and we're unique for 2 reasons. One, we're extremely urban. So an organization of our size, roughly 1.5 million square feet in the downtown core of a major city in North America, is absolutely unique. And secondly, we're a commercialization hub. We're not an incubator, we're not an accelerator. We work with startups that come into our ecosystem to help grow and scale their business on a global scale. Mars, as an organization, we're a private nonprofit registered charity, and we have 3 main revenue streams. One being our real estate. We have about 150 tenants within our building. Secondly, we receive funding from the government, both at the provincial and federal level, for specific programs that help our startups grow and scale. And then lastly, we are growing our corporate partnerships practice, where we work with multi-stakeholders, be it corporates, government, academia, as well as philanthropic organizations, to help drive the innovation mandate within their organizations. With respect to the 2 businesses and 2 business units at Mars, one is our venture services side, where we support roughly 1,300 startups across 5 different sectors, which I'll get into in a bit more detail. And then secondly, our partner solution group, which helps organizations both adopt and adapt to innovation and disruptive technologies. And we play, as a neutral third party, a convening role to help organizations solve complex problems within their businesses. In terms of the secret sauce at Mars, within our hub and within the environment that we operate in, there's entrepreneurs, there's corporates, there's researchers and investors, but at the center of it all, it's our startups, where we build programming to help them grow their businesses, give them access to talent, capital, and markets. And Mars has created a very unique ecosystem here in Canada, which we've expanded on a global basis to help organizations scale and adopt innovation. In terms of the innovation ecosystem that we operate in, so I've spoken about our ventures, our partners, we have tenants within the building. Given the environment that we're in, we're seeing tremendous traction for organizations looking beyond the ROI or the return on investments when they integrate their businesses with this startup or venture ecosystem. We're seeing tremendous potential from an impact lens, be it social, environmental, or from a governance perspective. So we're helping organizations really take this impact lens within their businesses. And Mars has created a group within the organization called Center for Impact Investing, which has done a tremendous amount of work within the sector. And we're helping a lot of corporate partners and governments really take this lens as they build their businesses for the future. From the startup lens and the venture lens at Mars, of the 1,300 ventures we have in our portfolio, we break them up into 3 distinct groups. So start, grow, and momentum. The start stage of ventures, which represents roughly 60% of our ventures, are pre-seed up to $1 million in revenue, but these are the up-and-coming startups within our network. The grow and momentum ventures, which represent the remaining 40%, these are our high-growth ventures. Roughly $1 million to over $100 million in revenue, Series A onwards. And this is the group of ventures that we've seen tremendous interest from corporates that have a product that is being commercialized and that is being grown and scaled to tackle problems and pain points that organizations are facing. At the bottom of this slide, this gives an overview of the sectors that we operate in. And we take this another layer deeper. So at Mars, health, clean tech, fintech, and enterprise have been the core sectors at Mars. Within each sector, we have subsectors that we operate in and that our ventures are building their businesses within. And then the platforms group is something that we've created about a year ago, which is tackling technologies that are industry agnostic. And we're seeing tremendous traction from our corporate ecosystem around autonomous and connected vehicles, cybersecurity, 5G, and advanced manufacturing. Something that's very unique to Mars, given the level of depth and breadth that we have across these industries, and when we work with our corporate partner ecosystem as well as our venture ecosystem, an organization coming into Mars is not looking to get insight in terms of the industry that they operate in. Just one example I do want to provide. We work with one of the largest automotive manufacturers, interior manufacturers in the world. They've done a lot of work with our autonomous and connected vehicle startups, but the primary reason they came to Mars was to get exposure to our health ecosystem. As they're building the future cockpit of a car, they want to figure out how do they build health diagnostics and therapeutics as cars become autonomous. So we're expanding that thinking. We're expanding the horizon in terms of how businesses are going to change over the next 5 to 10 years with a very deep venture lens in terms of the work that we do. In the environment that we're living in, especially with the impact that COVID has had, we're seeing a tremendous interest from many organizations to refocus efforts when it comes to innovation on kind of the base layer, the grassroots area around digital transformation and enterprise transformation. Companies are still very interested in developing new products and are accessing our venture ecosystem to do that. But in terms of driving ROI in the environment that we're living in, which is very much remote, organizations are really looking to identify innovations at that people and process layers of an organization to drive ROI and to make sure that they're creating efficiencies in this new environment that we're living in. This has been a strong and very fast growing sector within Mars when it comes to our enterprise sector, and just wanted to highlight that as I think it's very relevant right now. In terms of how we help our startups, there's a number of ways we do this, and we have a deep network of advisors who are entrepreneurs themselves and have deep sector expertise. So one of the core areas in terms of how our startups get this advisory support is through that network. Secondly, we have a dedicated capital team at Mars that is connected to corporate VCs on a global basis to help our organizations and our ventures find capital to grow their businesses. Thirdly, we have a dedicated talent team that is supporting our startup ecosystem to find the right talent to help them grow their businesses. And then lastly, we have a knowledge and insights or a market intelligence team that is really doing that research to help organizations and our ventures expand in different markets, identify new products and services, understand the competitive landscape that they're operating in for them to be successful. Now, secondly, I wanted to quickly discuss the partner ecosystem that we operate in as well. Mars works with over 60 corporate partners, and essentially what we're trying to do is leverage all the work and knowledge and insights that we have from our startup ecosystem to help organizations adopt that innovation within companies. What we realized by doing this for a number of years, corporates don't really understand startups don't really understand ventures. There's a very different risk profile for both types of organizations, and Mars plays that unique convening role to help organizations transform their sector. And what we've done over the years is we've built a number of engagement pathways to do that for our corporate ecosystem. I'll just touch upon a few of these, but our corporate innovation program is really the baseline program to help organizations think differently. Network, learn, and discover. A lot of organizations that are tapping into this new world of innovation are really starting from the ground up, haven't worked with startups in the past, but I've realized that given how quickly the world is moving, it is absolutely critical for organizations to understand, what startups are building and how can they integrate their technologies, potentially invest their technologies or partner with them to grow their businesses. Secondly, we take it another step further in terms of what we call our enterprise solutions. We're doing a lot of work at the strategic level with executives, C-suite, and board around aligning on this need for change, planning for that change, and executing that change. Given Mars has a very unique perspective on how our clean tech sector is evolving or how our fintech sector is evolving, we're leveraging these venture insights to help organizations and corporates think through that landscape and how it's changing for their businesses. And then lastly, with market and urban solutions, Mars as a private nonprofit, as a neutral convener, we play a very unique role into the ecosystem to convene key stakeholders around priority problems that they're facing. And we've developed a number of ways and pathways to engage organizations in that respect. Lastly, Mars, we are located in Toronto, but we are a critical player in the innovation ecosystem on a global basis. We've done a lot of work with hubs throughout the world, especially in Latin America and Asia. And this has created a very strong approach in terms of helping organizations drive their innovation mandate. But we've seen tremendous success come out of this as well. With that, I'll pass it on to my colleague Carmen, who will speak a bit more about our platforms practice and really provide some amazing insights in terms of the work we do around advanced manufacturing.
Thanks for the introduction, Zishan. Taking from what Greg and Zishan have shared, I'm going to be touching on one of Mars' areas of expertise, advanced manufacturing. The business of making things is definitely in the midst of technological transformation. Therefore, companies in advanced manufacturing more than ever are having to think about themselves as innovative tech companies. Specifically, to share some context about Canada's robust history in manufacturing, today the numbers still exemplify its importance in Canada. In Canada, advanced manufacturing is transforming existing industries, particularly in technology becoming infused in almost every product or every service Canadians consume. And we can beg to say that this is really, truly across the world. So what does this mean? As I shared, the business of making things is in the midst of fundamental transformation. Canadian manufacturers aren't just automating by outlining and outfitting their factories with robots, sensors, and 3D printers. They're also packing more technology, software, and services into their physical products more than ever before. They're harnessing data, utilizing AI and machine learning to do it better and more efficiently. Zishan, if you can jump 2 slides ahead, that'd be great. Thank you. Specifically, as we showed, Canada has a long history in car manufacturing. Was one of the leading car manufacturers in World War I, World War II, for an example. But today, automotive manufacturing is one of Canada's largest industrial sectors. And advanced manufacturing is particularly evident in the automotive sector. And as the industry pivots to make electric, autonomous, shared, and connected vehicles, Canadian automotive manufacturing is harnessing data and forging partnerships with technology companies. Canadian software companies and service providers are an integral part of the vehicle manufacturing supply chain. Roughly, there's an R&D, research and development budget of $211 million in 2017, just specifically in the advancements of automotive sector. And that's why we're seeing renowned worldwide companies like BlackBerry, Apple, Ford, GM, doing autonomous driving research in Ontario and helping make the province of Ontario an automotive hub. Moving on, really, Canada and Ontario in particular have a vibrant technology sector, as we've shared, with expertise in areas such as artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and power storage, which are increasingly at the heart of making modern vehicles. Canada is seeing interesting convergences. The marriage of high tech and conventional manufacturing is also spawning new and unusual partnerships. And that's something that I would beg to say is really special about Canada. For an example, we're seeing a company like Liamar, who specializes in powertrain components for automotive sector, recently teamed up with a Toronto startup called Synaptive Medical Incorporated to build robotic surgical microscopes and lightweight mobile MRI machines. It's really truly a case of convergence, collaboration between corporate and startups. So when we look at the innovation ecosystem in advanced manufacturing in Canada, it's a robust collaborative network. But one of the challenges we're in the process of addressing at Mars is how startups and how SMEs in physical product development face a twofold challenge. I can beg to say this is probably across the world as well, is how developing a functional product and also a business model to bring those products to market. So through a unique partnership between Mars Discovery District, George Brown College, which is a local college, a refined manufacturing accelerator process, which is an incubator focused on the adoption of smart manufacturing for a connected world, sensors, electronics, and so forth, the City of Toronto, and other partners, we're bringing a light manufacturing incubator to fruition called Factory 6. So located in the urban heart of Toronto, Factory 6 will help companies accelerate product development and commercialization through access to specialized equipment and assembly spaces, co-location and community spaces. We could also say co-working spaces, tech's expertise in programming, a network of suppliers, manufacturers, and support services, working with a variety of the innovation hubs across the country, acting as kind of what we're calling creating a dynamic advanced manufacturing hub for Canada's leading corporates, innovative startups and SMEs, engineers, developers, manufacturers, and entrepreneurs, industry partners, educational institutions, and government. So we'll be working with very closely with MGen, which is the advanced manufacturing supercluster that Greg spoke to, and kind of creating what we call like a physical hub of activity. And we truly believe that it will unlock growth in the Canadian innovation sector. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, Zishan. Thank you, Carmen. That was a lovely presentation. I loved how also Zishan mentioned the interaction to the corporate and to different levels of maturity of the corporate so that you can integrate them. And then also coming from the corporate side, we knew that every day that we had different maturity levels that we are able to do different kinds of interactions with the ecosystem. And then now you're also moving that to manufacturing, which is extremely interesting. And especially for us at Bosch. And now that's also that's also my cue here for Rafael. So Rafael, how is Bosch also as a manufacturing company in auto parts in Canada? How are they doing there? Could you tell us more a little bit about that? And if you guys have questions, you can leave here below the video and then we will answer them later. Thank you.
Sure. And yeah, thanks everyone. And thanks Marco again for having us. What I would like to do here is just basically give a very high-level review on what's Bosch in Canada, and I'll give some examples on how we've engaged in the past years with innovation ecosystem here in the region. So I'll start basically for just one quick slide on Bosch Global so that you understand what's overall Bosch presence in the world. So we operate specifically in 4 different sectors: mobility solutions, energy and building technology, industrial technology, and consumer goods. Approximately 400,000 associates, and if you look into Canadian dollars, this is a little bit over $110 billion in sales in 2019. So in Canada, we have actually established our presence here in Canada a long time ago in 1911, so more than 100 years ago. And our first office was established in 1954 in Montreal. What's interesting is that after more than 100 years, we now employ more than 600 people in Canada in 8 locations across pretty much all the different provinces. And we have representation of all the different sectors of our business. So we operate here under brands like Bosch, which would carry products like our power tools, our building technologies, automotive aftermarkets, and thermal technology, and also through some subsidiaries that are fully owned by the Bosch Group, like the Rexroth, which is in our industrial side, BSH on the appliance, ETAS on the cybersecurity, and Freud on the accessories for power tools. Throughout those 100 years, it's interesting to see that Bosch has built a very strong reputation in the region. So this index shows a little bit of what Canadians see about the Bosch brands. So Forbes has this ranking in which in 2017, Bosch has been ranked as the number 32 in terms of the most reputable companies in Canada. And in 2018, this has moved to number 13. So we're among the 13 companies that are the most reputable in the region, which means throughout our history, we have built this strong brand and reputation in the region, which is obviously very critical for innovation as well. Before I jump more specifically into some of the examples on how we've engaged with the innovation ecosystem, I'd like to show this quick chart here. And what is this telling us? This is the distance that it takes from me to drive from the Bosch headquarters in Canada to the headquarters of some of those companies that you see on the screen. And you're going to see that within a 45 minutes drive, I can reach the headquarters of companies like Microsoft, Walmart, Amazon, Uber, Invest in Canada from the government, and Mars in terms of the startups, which means this is a very closed network in which it's very easy to access decision makers and partners in the innovation ecosystem. And that drives a lot of collaboration in the region, which is also critical for innovation. Although we have the second largest territory in the world, you can see that there's a very consolidated innovation space in which access is very easy to some of those companies. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've did in the last 10 to 12 years, and some examples on how we've engaged with innovation. And I start back in 2008 when we've acquired a company called Extreme CCTV and incorporated that into our business building technology division. And this has become a critical aspect of our developments in vision and artificial intelligence through this innovative company that we've acquired in Canada. So this relates to our security systems and intelligent video analytics back in 2008. In 2014, this was actually our first investment in Canada from the venture capital standpoint. It's a company called Flybits that works in topics related to context awareness and mobile experience. And we've led the investments in Series E rounds for Flybits in the past and are still very engaged with them in terms of developing innovations. A very successful story of investment for us was this company that we've acquired in the Waterloo region called TrustPoint. We incorporated TrustPoint into Script, which is the group from Bosch that works in cybersecurity. And Waterloo, where this company came from, is a very well-known region for cybersecurity topics. And still nowadays, Script Canada is recognized as one of the best places in the world and most advanced places in the world for cybersecurity and vehicle to infrastructure security in the communication. So again, a very successful story of acquisition in the innovation space that turned into a success story for Bosch. In some of the more recent investments that I can share as an example, we've recently invested in a company from Montreal called Airy 3D that works in virtual reality and 3D mapping, and also in a company that does advanced manufacturing called Polka from Quebec. So this is more on the space of the industrial and Industry 4.0. We've also invested in a company called Mojo from Vancouver. And in 2019 at the NIAS, we have presented some concepts on how can we integrate our technology in the advanced mobility space with Mojo in order to develop new areas of mobility and connected mobility solutions. So this is another recent example on how we are interacting with the innovation environment, specifically in the mobility sector. There are also some new initiatives that we're working on. So recently, now a couple of weeks ago, actually, we decided a letter of support in terms of innovation partnership with this company called Kiveris, which is actually a Brazilian startup that is now operating in Oshawa, Ontario. And we're working with them to leverage and further develop some of their concepts in terms of artificial intelligence, robotics, and autonomous vehicles. So this is just the start of a new partnership that again reflects some of the investments and engagements of Bosch within the region. So in summary, so Bosch has a presence in Canada for more than 100 years, representing all the different sectors in terms of mobility, industrial, buildings, and consumer goods. Their direct or indirect presence in all the regions, in all the provinces in Canada, are highly reputable brands, and a strong innovation engagement with this ecosystem. But obviously, I think that there's a lot of areas that we're still not exploring in Canada that we could have deeper involvement in terms of, for instance, artificial intelligence, connected mobility, and so on. So this is a success story that we believe is just in the beginning. But with that, we can discuss a little bit more in the panel. I'll give it back to Marco. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rafael. And also interesting to see from the Bosch side the different perspectives in other countries, how they're interacting. We'll open up for questions now. If you guys leave your questions on YouTube comments, we'll ask here. And we already have one to start, which is actually my question, is that here in Brazil, at least in the innovation ecosystem, we listen a lot about San Francisco area or Israel. And then ever since we started talking, I was very curious to know what's different and unique about the Canadian ecosystem. And I think you guys mentioned in your presentations a little bit, but in a summed up version, what would you say in a few sentences? Okay, this is what's different from all the other ecosystems that makes us unique.
So I can kick it off. So one of the things that we see from our corporate perspective is the leading view that Toronto has when it comes to artificial intelligence research, which is led by University of Toronto. Mars is a deep partner with U of T, and so I'd say that's one of the very unique aspects of kind of the ecosystem, and why ventures and startups as well as corporates come to Mars in Canada.
Let me just add to this point from Zishan. So thanks, Zishan. It's a very good point. And Bosch is obviously globally investing a lot in artificial intelligence. In 2018, we invested in a partnership with in Pittsburgh to develop a center of competence for artificial intelligence. And at that point, I worked with some entities in the government to compare some of the costs of talents and deploying those artificial intelligence centers in Toronto versus Pittsburgh. And there's a very clear messaging that the cost of talent in Canada is still much more attractive than places like the US. So you can have access to high talents from the top universities in the world in this very closed network system, and still at a very attractive cost for investment. So I think this is one of the things I would like to highlight as well. So, yeah.
And maybe if I can just add a few points. And so absolutely agree with the points already made. However, I would also add that you know, in a lot of the major cities across Canada, and let's just use Toronto, where most of us are based right now. You know, we for the longest time, for 100 years, we've had a very, very strong manufacturing base, and today we've layered on top of that a very strong technology base, and that combination is extremely powerful, and that's not something that is easily replicated. So when you talk about San Francisco, Seattle, those are obviously very strong technology markets. But what makes us different is that we've been, I think, successful at leveraging this strong history of manufacturing, of industry, and really combining it with technology.
And I would say, to add to that, in Canada, we just have an incredibly highly educated population whom is doing really fantastic research and development, and that's why we're seeing leading expertise and leading R&D in a variety of different areas, and that really facilitates connections across a variety of different sectors and clusters.
Yeah, and this is also very attractive if you look at Bosch as a German European company. In terms of the way the society is organized here in Canada, I would say there's a lot of similarities in terms of the role of government and the players and the different infrastructures, which also makes it attractive for a company like Bosch as well. So
yeah, and I loved your comments about the manufacturing history you had, and also I saw through your presentations you had some kinds of focus like fintechs or health techs, and are these focuses that you're trying to develop, or would you say that the ecosystem looks like, okay, these are the strong points here? Because for us in Brazil, we have fintechs, retail techs, we have ag techs, and that's what naturally came to Brazil. And what would be the natural vocation of the startups that you have now? Is it the same you presented, you just adapted, or is it a different one?
So maybe let me just start, and maybe my colleagues from Mars can take it from there, because they're doing just fantastic things in all those sectors that you mentioned. But you know, certainly in Toronto, really financial capital of Canada, second largest in North America. It's a very, very strong ecosystem for fintechs, and we're seeing just explosive growth in fintech. That said, the life sciences sector in both Ontario and Quebec is extremely strong. Given our focus on health and wellness, and again, Mars actually started as support, has done a lot of support in the particular sector. But then, you know, up and coming sectors like you know, even we already talked about artificial intelligence, but you know, if you talk about gaming and augmented reality, virtual reality, you know, Vancouver's a huge hub for that, as well as Montreal. So, you know, if you're for those folks on the line, if you know, if they're focused on a specific sort of branch of technology, I'm sure you'll find a home here in Canada.
Yeah, and just to highlight that if you compare to Brazil, one of the sectors that is very important to the Canadian economy is the agriculture, and there's a lot of different subsectors within that, and it's very relevant to the export economy of Canada, which means obviously there's a lot of investment and innovation and discussions happening in that sector as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and just from a Mars perspective, so location makes a massive difference. So Mars is located in the Discovery District within Toronto. Within a 5 to 10 kilometer radius of Mars, we have 8 research hospitals that do roughly over $2 billion of research every year. Financial district is not too far away. Government and some of the largest energy companies are just across the street. So that obviously plays a deep role in terms of where we're seeing traction in our venture ecosystem. Secondly, from a venture perspective, you know, there's been a lot of successful Canadian founders when it comes to our clean tech sector. We're typically in the top 100. We have about 10 startups within our network that are within the top 100 top clean tech organizations on a global level. And so clean tech has always been a very strong sector at Mars, and we're seeing tremendous growth there. But again, as Greg mentioned, health has been kind of the core at Mars from our founding about 15 years ago.
And to add to what you were questioning, Marco, I would say that the sectors and clusters that have bubbled up in Canada are really a response to the research that's being done at all of these educational institutions, and also just innovative thought from innovative, entrepreneurs across the country. And obviously one thing kind of captures, and there's like one kind of leader in that cluster, that sector, and then it just kind of grows from there. So I would say not that there's been anything specific that the government kind of like essentially funnels down. It's typically a response to the community and what the community is building and growing.
Very, very interesting. And I also saw that, especially in Zishan's presentation, and how you connect through other ecosystems around the world. So I would know if you could talk a little bit more about that. How is it connected? So everyone watching us that wants to connect with you, how do you connect it to the rest of the world?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Super easy question.
So our connections have been built out as we've kind of moved along the mandate to drive success for our ventures. We have a dedicated team within our venture services side that is constantly in the loop with other hubs globally. And the main purpose is, as we are trying to support our startups to find capital for them, to find markets, which in turn get customers, we are constantly engaged with other hubs to figure out, if we don't have a startup within our portfolio that addresses a client need, how can we work with other startup hubs in the UK, in Asia, even in Latin America, where we've done a lot of work in Chile and Colombia. So there's this mutual benefit and mutual understanding that we want to support the broader ecosystem, but happy to share more insights and specific questions as people have as well.
Yeah. I'd like just to add to that from my perspective, what I see, what's interesting in terms of connecting Canada with the rest of the world, if you look at, for instance, how the government sees it, they have people that are specifically allocated, for instance, for companies that are global, from the automotive sector, from Europe or Germany. And so there's going to be teams that are specifically identifying some of those key companies and working with them to bring more exposure to the Canadian ecosystem, and working with them to bring more of what's innovation in Canada and how it relates specifically to those sectors in those companies. So I think this has strengthened the relationships between countries and sectors across the globe as well. So, yeah.
And just to add a specific example for that, in building Factory 6, which I briefly spoke about, we went to go visit the Connectory in Chicago and other hubs, and our Canadian colleagues who work for the Canadian Council in Chicago organized a fantastic tour. And through that, I mean, it's really developing partnerships and learning from other hubs that are within the advanced manufacturing cluster, but also within other clusters. And that's what's, I think, really impactful, that learning from other hubs and also facilitating connections across the world, really, for our startups and SMEs in Canada.
Very good. Yeah. Greg, do you have any additional comments, or?
I mean, maybe just to build on what
you don't need to.
well, just to build off what Raphael mentioned, the service that he alluded to is it's called the Trade Commissioners Service, and it's a branch of the federal government. We've got offices around the world, and those individuals are really focused on connecting with companies. Again, they are, I would say, our business development team that help us, bring those companies to Canada. Those folks also facilitate a lot of sort of these types of discussions where we talk about the benefits of potentially locating your business in Canada or taking advantage of our, one of the many ecosystems that we can host.
Yeah, thank you. That would be also my next question, is that you all made a very compelling case for Canada here. So you might have different hubs in startups trying to contact you. So around the world, what would they need to know before they go to Canada?
Maybe I'll start off again. What do they need to know? I would say that, again, really, there's a lot to offer. What we hear, and this is maybe the best information, but navigating various levels of government and all of the various programs that Canada has, but then also many other countries have, can be difficult, can be complex, can be intimidating. Certainly the services of Invest in Canada and a lot of our partners that I've mentioned, we're really here to help answer those questions. I mean, that's kind of our job, right? And so what I would say is there's a lot of support. So, feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we'll get you connected to the right people who will give you the answers and the information you need.
Yeah. So what I would say from my perspective is that if you're thinking from the Brazilian perspective, obviously it's cold, but a little bit colder than Brazil. We have to coming.
It's not.
But outside of that, this is a very vast territory, right? And you need to establish very clear policies to attract immigrants, which causes a very interesting ecosystem for diversity and interacting with other cultures as well. So Canada has excelled in creating this onboarding process for other organizations from around the world to come into Canada and understand very quickly, support organizations and interacting and how to ramp up quickly into this system. So I think this is an important thing that I was impressed with on how this onboarding process for different cultures and different technologies in different countries into the region. So that's a very good aspect of the Canadian ecosystem as well. So.
Very nice. We have one question here from a comment in YouTube. How you see Brazilian innovation ecosystem, or what have you heard about Brazilian innovation ecosystem? That's a tricky one.
I would say most of what I've learned is from Marco and Raphael and Emily, to be honest. But it's interesting. I took a bit of a deeper dive post, and I think that there's an immense amount of opportunity for growth. And it's interesting to think about areas of opportunities with other countries, and so fintech being one of them. And I think Greg really interestingly touched on the security of our banking system and the growth that we're seeing in many Latin countries around banking. So that would just be one specific area where it's how can we partner to create more robust systems?
Yeah, I would say as a Brazilian, I think that innovation is part of the DNA of Brazilians. So there's obviously lots of new ideas and concepts and things like that. So when you see an innovation coming from Brazil, and you probably combine that with the infrastructure and the opportunities that Canada has to offer in terms of investments and connections and stability and things like that, I think this is a perfect storm to create solutions for the future, and something that we need to definitely explore as well. So
yeah. I would say to echo Carmen's point, we're definitely seeing interest from the fintech sector here in Ontario, and so a lot of activity there. So I'm not sure how that's come about, but there seems to be a strong connection between the Brazilian fintech ecosystem and what's going on in Canada. And then I would also say, we're certainly no strangers to Brazilian technology and interest in many other sectors in Canada. So mining comes to mind, agriculture comes to mind as well. So yeah. We're definitely partners on a number of different.
Very good. Yeah, let me see if we have more questions here. So now with every live we have today, we cannot not talk about COVID, so we can move to the COVID questions. So what do you say has changed the most with COVID in your ecosystem that surprised you?
I can get started maybe on what I saw is basically there was this call from the government for companies to come up with ideas and come up with innovation concepts and what they can do to support the response to COVID. And it was very interesting, exciting to see how overwhelmingly active the companies were in terms of submitting ideas and partnering, getting together and coming upfront to talk to the government on how they could support. So with that, there's a lot of new initiatives and new solutions that were quickly deployed to help Canada deal with COVID. So I think this is one of the things that I've learned during the pandemic that was very interesting as well on my side. So.
From the federal government's perspective, I think Canada stepped up early with a lot of programs to not only benefit businesses, individuals. Those programs have been very, very effective. I think our response to COVID has been very good, and I think we're being recognized for that globally. So certainly not perfect in many ways. We're still grappling with the effects of the pandemic in many ways, but things are getting better, at least here in Canada. I'm not sure what the situation is like in Brazil, but I think we're hopefully closer to the end than the beginning.
I think one of the things that contributes to that is that Canada has a very strong integrated health system that helps react quickly in the different regions and provinces in a unified approach. So this is also very key to Canada in the response.
I was going to share, I think what was really fantastic is just the agility that we saw both in the government sector, but also in the corporate and startup SME sector. It was just, there was such rapid product development that really came in immediate response. The thing that we're seeing that's really interesting now is more looking at funding for recovery connected to COVID. So we're seeing, for an example, NGen, the advanced manufacturing cluster that we've spoken about, providing a lot of opportunities for future product development. So for an example, self-cleaning robots and forth. So I think it's interesting where with that agility, like looking at everything from a wide lens and a narrow lens of that response network.
Carmen, just to add to that, there's a very specific example on how Bosch as well supported this recovery. So we've learned with some other key partners that testing is obviously a critical step to recovering and reopening the economies. So in an initiative that was led by Microsoft and some other companies, in about a month, Bosch supported those companies to create a portable virus testing center that at the same time gives access to people to testing for COVID and also gives an additional layer of protection to healthcare frontline workers as well. So this is an example, like in a month, we were able to connect Bosch with Microsoft, with TCL, which is large construction companies, some other innovators, to develop something that is critical for the economy to recover and go back to normal, or as far as normal as possible.
Yeah, just on that topic, it might be a few months old now, but at the beginning of this pandemic, what we saw in Canada, which really talks to the strength of our advanced manufacturing sector, which we spoke about, was you'll recall back in April, a lot of the plant got shut down. Production was taken offline, and so there was a lot of idle capacity. And what we saw pretty quickly was that a lot of the suppliers, the tier 1 suppliers, tier 2s, retooled really quickly to produce PPE. Because that's what was in incredibly short supply in the early days of this. We saw factories that would make molds and other stamped metal parts for cars, retooled to make face masks and shields and other equipment for the frontline responders. So that was really something that I think not only helped the whole industry, but Canada as a whole as well.
And just to add to that, Zishan and my colleagues who specifically work with startups and SMEs in the health tech sector, we're seeing such incredible, again, agility and strength in Canadian health approvals for those startups and SMEs that were creating new products in response. And again, it was really interesting to see that strength and that agility.
Oh, that's very interesting. And maybe on the topic of manufacturing, as also Rafael was mentioning, Rafael, what's actually Bosch doing with Mars and Invest Canada? So how have you guys been working together?
Yeah, so basically what's very interesting about those organizations that both organizations are very supportive in help me map what's the ecosystem and how it connects to what are the Bosch priorities globally and in the region as well. So this is obviously still in the early phases of engagement. We see a lot of potential to advance that to other levels, but we're already connecting and exchanging a lot of information on what's attractive and what can be done and things like that. So a clear example of that is Carmen was talking about Factory 6. So Bosch is investigating how can we also have some sort of presence into Factory 6 as well, and how does this connect to our objectives in the region and globally in terms of advancing manufacturing and so on. So I think this beginning of the relationship that is very fruitful already, and there's much more to come to explore in the ecosystem locally. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much. And another question here we have. So, Carmen, so when you discussed about manufacturing, we would have this change from this old style manufacturing to this very advanced manufacturing. So how are you dealing with this gap that the companies will have to go through?
Well, what we're really trying to explore is what does the adoption of technology look like? What does exposure look like? And we are seeing challenges, admittedly, where Canada is built on a lot of really small companies that have been doing business for a really long time. And we're seeing opportunities and struggles in helping them advance their factories, advance their processes, and really look at what does Industry 4.0 connected to their specific practices. And so it's really about right now about exposure, technology adoption, but also, as you can imagine, a lot of manufacturers are typically in outer skirts of cities, industrial parks, and so forth. So that's really what the strength is in facilitating Factory 6, is it can act essentially as almost a community kind of central innovation hub. Similarly to, Mars is fantastic because it's really such a large intersect of every single innovation cluster and sector. And we're just looking at how Factory 6 can really provide specified supports and specified kind of connection point.
Yeah, that's a very nice support system to help them go through this process.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even beyond that, especially in response to COVID, how do we facilitate supply chains and more sustainability in that? Because that's definitely a struggled note that we highlighted previously, but really COVID really highlighted on another level. So that's something also interesting that we're looking to explore and develop more strength and resiliency.
Yeah. I think I might have had a small connection issue here. Hi, I think I might have had a small connection issue here. Sorry. Yeah, but thank you, Carmen, for your inputs. I think we are. We got some questions here from the commenters. Would you guys like to make a last comment about so we can close the event?
I think I started maybe from the Bosch perspective. As I said, there's been lots of engagement. We have a strong presence with our traditional business here, but I see that there's lots of potential to expand this relationship when you talk about autonomous driving and connected mobility and artificial intelligence as well. Those are areas where Bosch is investing a lot globally, and we see lots of cool things happening here in Canada. When you go a level deeper into areas like artificial intelligence, for instance, there's areas like natural language processing and deep learning where Canada is pretty ahead of the curve in those areas. And I think those makes very interesting cases for Bosch to investigate and look into how to explore and to participate more into this ecosystem, even more than what we've been doing for the past 100 and so years so far. So yeah. And thanks again for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Should I go next?
Yeah, You can
Well,
no specific order.
so again, just a big thanks to the organizers for inviting me to spend a little bit of time talking about what we do and how we can help. The only thing I would say is that for any of the folks on the line who are maybe interested in exploring a little bit more about what Canada has to offer, please reach out. Happy to help, to work with these companies, to tell them a little bit more about Canada, and then about some of the programs that we offer and incentives and different ways to help their business grow. One thing we didn't touch on, it's obvious to some folks, but maybe not to everybody, is that we sit right next to the largest market in the world. And so one of the reasons a lot of companies like Canada is, a lot of the reasons we already mentioned, we're a pretty welcoming bunch. We're a diverse bunch, but we also are about 50 kilometers away from the United States, and that's a huge selling point for us. So happy to provide any information, any extra information possible. But thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I can speak from
or Carmen.
Yeah, from a Mars perspective, again, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Mars is a very unique organization on a global basis. Our mission is to help innovators create a better world. It is core to what we do. Ventures are absolutely critical to the success of the organization and being a key player in terms of the global economy. Brazil has been a market that Mars has explored in the past, and we continue to explore with the trade commissioners here in Canada. So if there are any questions or if you'd like to connect, happy to have those conversations and get into deeper conversations. But thank you for the opportunity.
Right, thank you.
And to share with the sentiment of everyone, many thanks. It's been a pleasure. And just to add to Calixto's question, with Factory 6 specifically, we're really looking at developing partnerships with all the connectors at Bosch. And so we look forward to what the future developments look like, and working with Rafael, Marco, and others.
Yeah, and thank you so much from our side. A special thank to you guys to joining our event and going through all the preparation process and everything. It was a pleasure to hear and to learn about your work and then your environment. And let's keep on touch. And for everybody watching us here, you can follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Simpla for the next events. And we will let you know there. And that's it. Thank you very much. And have a nice weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.